Okay, we just got done with the diagnose tab. We hit next, and that brought us over to the trim tab now, which is tab number 3. As you can see right up here, the trim tab is where you're going to adjust your trim for your head and tail servos. At this point, it tells you at this point all servos stay at neutral and do not respond to stick movement. What that means is that the software is actually locking out your servos from doing anything. You've already hooked everything up at the very end of the diagnose page. It showed you the help image of the unit with how to hook up your servo wires. So I'm assuming you've done that already. Just follow the diagram on how to do that. Now that you've got your servos hooked up, what you want is to achieve 90 degrees angle with your servo lever, your servo arm, with your link that's going up to your swash plate. Depending on your setup, if you've got a system, a model that has lots of bell cranks and that sort of thing, in either case you're going to set up the trim here so that you've got your actual neutral point on your model. Now you will see as you make trim adjustments and then you write them to the unit, you'll see your servo arms moving so that you're getting the swash level. This is basically used for swash leveling. You've got your level tool, or however you're going to determine that you've got a level swash. Using a tool is the easiest way. You take your rotor head off, you put the tool over the main shaft, and it sits on top of the swash, and as you make these trim adjustments, you'll see whether or not your head is level. That's the easiest way to do it. Some people eyeball it and they've got very good calibrated eyes. Whatever it is you're doing, this is the page that you use to make those trim adjustments. So on my Goblin, I'm going to go in and make the trim adjustments that I know works for my system, and then I'll save those to the unit and we'll go from there. So for mine, to get neutral on the swash, I need to go -10 and -30, -26. And for me, everyone's going to be different. I mean, you want these to be as close to 0 as possible, typically. However, I find that for me, I like, if I ever do crash or anything like that, I like my mechanical setup to be very easy to duplicate, and so I set everything to the measurements that are listed out in the manual, for the build manual from the manufacturer. So in this case, I set my links and everything according to Goblin's manual. If I crash and those get all bent up and I need to replace them, I don't want to have to fool around with how many turns did I have that link, you know, versus the other ones in order to get a level swash. I want to use the digital trim here to get that swash level, and I just know that because I recorded this previously that this is perfect for my helicopter. And then on my tail, based on my specific setup, it was actually 32. So I'm just putting these in by default. I don't have a servo number 4, so I'm just leaving that alone. And then I'm going to come down here. I see that I still have the unequal sign. I made all of these adjustments, and I'm going to go ahead and say right. That's going to save those adjustments to the trim, and so now I've got all my trim for the head and for the tail saved to my unit, and I'm ready to hit OK next. It tells me now adjust the mechanics following the linkage from the servo to the rotor blade. Use the push rods below for the swash plate to bring the swash plate into horizontal position, which is precisely 90 degrees. Adjust the angle of attack so that you've got 0 degrees at mid-stick. And we've already dealt with the tail rotor, so I'm just going to say OK again. And that's it for the trim tab. All it was verifying that I had everything neutral. So it's making sure that my rotor head was neutral, so that my servos are at 90 degrees to the swash plate, and that my swash is level, and that my tail is centered when I'm at center, and that's exactly how I've got it set up. And then it takes you over to the mixer tab next, which is what we'll discuss next.